social media ROI is difficult to determine, but that's not to say that it cannot be determined. So, I mean, globally, there have been a lot of studies which are also now being implemented in India. Things like what is the value of a Facebook fan? So, I mean, if you just go out and talk to, sort of 2,000 fans of a particular brand, and you try and ask them deeper questions in terms of have they purchased the product, how often they purchase the product, how likely are they to recommend the product, and sort of do deeper analysis into even things like people like Facebook fans or people like Twitter followers on a largely broader subset, I think you can arrive at a lot of interesting data to help understand, whether what percentage of your fans are consumers versus non-consumers. So then you can start putting a rupee value on it, saying that, out of 400 people who've liked the page, sort of 300 people already own the product. Out of those, 150 are likely to recommend the product. So you try and put a value on top of that. So, I mean, I think the potential to put a number behind it exists, and I think it's just a matter of time before agencies and brands start doing that very, very efficiently. So I fundamentally, social media can be measured very, very well. I just think we haven't done it well enough, and I think we will start doing it in a much better fashion going forward. So I think there are three fundamental ways to measure the impact of a Facebook campaign. I would look at product mentions as a as a key metric of the success or failure of a Facebook campaign, especially with FMCG products. So give you the example of, there's this kajal that we were promoting last summer for Maybelline. It's called the Colossal Kajal, and we had 120,000 mentions of the Colossal Kajal on the Facebook page of Maybelline New York itself. Out of these 120,000, 100,000 were positive recommendations, either indicating that they'd use the kajal, or they would, so they heard about the kajal and thus are recommending it. The sales during that summer were about 500,000 units. So if you just, if you take 120,000 mentions itself, that's a huge number versus, and you can also classify the fact that probably everybody who uses it is not going to come back and, sort of give a recommendation. So I think from that perspective, if you just try and amplify the value of that word of mouth, 120,000 into, sort of, even if you just by a meager figure of 20 people, if you measure that, you see that in terms of reach. And what I'm talking about not here is not advertising reach, but advocacy reach. And I think that's really strong. So I think product mentions is one, reach is second. And interactivity and the various factors of interactivity, whether it's people talking about engagement rate, sort of how responsive people are to the thought of the campaign. So a lot of campaigns are not product focused, they're thought focused. So if people have connected to the thought in a big way, so if, sort of attitude and perception is that if the thought is, say for example, the complete man for Raymond, and if people have spoken about how they are the complete man, in a big way, and that perception of most content is to the complete man, and that interactivity is very high, then I think that's a successful campaign. I think you've got to go into each campaign in a little more detail, but I would say simple product mentions, reach, and percentage of engagement. That's relevant engagement. So I mean, I think so. What when we look at Facebook, we're saying product mentions, we're saying reach, we're saying percentage engagement. I think that pretty much can translate to any medium. So whether it's Twitter, again, I would look at mentioning, I would look at measuring product mentions. Uh, I would look at measuring the reach, and I would again look at measuring the relevant product engagement. Similarly for YouTube, I think the numbers would change. You put likes to views, you put percentage talking about us to likes. But I mean, fundamentally, those are the three things that you would judge. And I think that's the we try and overcomplicate our analytics a lot. So I think we need to start simplifying analytics and see what are the figures that give measurable, actionable results. So I'm not a big believer of let's look at X figure and Y figure and let's see how this impacted this. But there's like, I know for sure that when a consumer is talking about a product and talking about it positively, they want to buy it. I know for sure that when a consumer is talking about a campaign thought and talking about it in a way that they really internalize it, they want to buy it. And I think that's what really we need to be measuring more than anything else. So I think the biggest challenge we face when we create a campaign that's integrated between online and offline is obviously we don't have the capabilities or perceived capabilities to do offline. So we don't have the capabilities to do a TVC. We don't have the capabilities to do a large scale print campaign. We don't have the capabilities to sort of plan media or understanding to plan media and scale it really well. So I think that's when one of the two things happens. Either the client pulls in its other agency partners, and we all sit together and we work the concept to make it bigger. Um, and also from our end as an agency, we start upskilling. So what we're now starting to do is we're now starting to be in a position to be able to cut TVCs when we produce video. We're in a position to produce print ads when we produce video. We're in a position to do sort of offline stall design when we do video. So I think we're also seeing ourselves as sort of uh, uh, how do I put it? We're looking at our teams that service brands as core teams, and then there's a lot of satellite teams that we're investing in across, which can do things that enable these brands to sort of really extend their ideas. So I think it's a bit of both. I think the challenge is that, and these challenges can be mitigated by working either by increasing your own skill set, and also by sort of partnering with your clients, other agencies, and really helping make the idea bigger.